Something a little different today. Here just this last Mother's Day 2022, or the day before Mother's Day, I took Nancy to Tucson for a Mother's Day outing, and there was a specialty seed company she wanted to visit. They specialize in desert plants and seeds for desert plants, and of course she's really going to town with all the gardening and cactus gardening and stuff, and she wanted to go visit that place. Well, we get there and they had moved from the address location we found online, and they had moved from that location and went to online sales only. So she was really bummed about that. Fast forward, our daughters found the place online and got her a nice Mother's Day gift card for it, so she was able to order the seeds she was looking for. But at the time she was really bummed out, so it was kind of a consolation. We visited her favorite antique shop in Tucson, and I stumbled across this little gem right here. Now, this is not an antique watering can. It's probably not even vintage. It's very well made. It's factory made. It's got a copper band around the bottom, and it's got copper handles. Very nicely made. But like most used metal watering cans you find, it's missing something. It's missing the watering spout, or some refer to it as the rose. I refer to it as the bell. Irregardless, it's gone, rendering this thing pretty much useless unless you just want to dump a bunch of water all at once. On this particular example, well, you can't see that. Hang on. Pardon me for the messy workbench. There we go. As you can see, the end of that has got a brass NPT fitting, I think 3/4, that's soldered in the end. So I picked up the corresponding male brass fitting. Yeah, sure. Now you're not going to screw in there and embarrass me in front of all my viewers. There we go. Anyway, we're going to build a new bell or rose or sprinkler head around this brass fitting. Now, I've got an example here of a modern watering can that's available at any department store, Walmart or whatever here in the US. You guys have seen these, and they're pretty much crap. They last maybe a season here in Arizona. The Arizona sun will basically just disintegrate this plastic. It does have a removable sprinkler head, so if it does get clogged, you can clean it. But like I say, this is not going to hold up very long. So we're going to make a new sprinkler head for that. I've got some scrap 20 gauge galvanized that matches the patina of the can fairly close. So yeah, let's make a new sprinkler head for that watering can. All right, we got some tools. We'll get started. So this can is 9-inch in diameter. So from a scale perspective, I think the size of the sprinkler head should be about 1/3 the total diameter of the can, which would make it 3 inches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a couple of 8-inch squares out of this old piece of galvanized just to make it more manageable, and then we'll start laying out from there. So I'll bring you back after I cut those two pieces out. I'm channeling my inner Wendell at Tractor Man 44. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go from corner to corner, run some diagonals in the center here, and I'll put a little tick mark with my awl, so my dividers have a anchor point, so I can swing an arc without the dividers slipping all over the metal. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I know the lines disappear in this galvanized under the light, but I'd have to use gallons of Dychem, which I don't have, to show you what I'm doing. So, you get the idea though. All right, I said we're going to make that sprinkler head, or rose, or bell, 3 inches in diameter. So half of 3 is 1.5 inches. Three inches on the money. Now what I want to do is add 5/16 around that for a lip, and all the way around. The nominal is going to be 1/4 inch, but when you form that up, you're going to get some material stretch. Actually, not 5/16. I need to shrink that, because when I form it up, it's going to stretch. So the rule of thumb, when you're bending something up 90 degrees or more, you want to subtract 75% of the material thickness. So when the material stretches, you'll get the outside dimension that you were looking for. Okay, let's cut that out. So when I mentioned I'm channeling my inner Wendell, Tractor Man 44, I initially found him based on tractors. Well, then I discovered that Wendell was an old hayvac tim bender from back in the day, and he still does a fair amount of hayvac work on the side. And so I got to commiserating with him in the comments, because back in the day, my first experience with sheet metal was working in a little hayvac company. So we hit it off, and we banter back and forth in the comments. And so yeah, I'm channeling my my inner Wendell. Now this is 20 gauge, so it's a little more difficult to cut with the aviation snips. Not impossible, but since it is 20 gauge, thicker material, you just take your time. There we go. Nice little sphere. It's got a 1/4 inch extension, our nominal 3 inch diameter, plus a 1/4 inch all the way around, because we're going to be folding that up later. Okay, now I'm channeling my inner Arco from Outlaw Edge, Minnesota Outlaw Customs. I got an old chunk of scrap pipe here, chucked up in the vise to use as a dimple die. And I took a file and smooth the edges so I don't transfer any unwanted markings onto the metal. And then I just measure from the side of the dimple die out to the edge just to make sure I'm fairly even all the way around. I got 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm just going to carefully start forming this. Sorry, I'm blocking the view. Start forming this. I want to just dimple this down a little bit to get that bell shape. That's why I call it a bell. So I'm just going to continue to work my way around this and form that to the dimple die until I get, you know, a nice curved shape. All right, I've got that down there. What am I after? About 1/4 of an inch deep. That should be sufficient. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my cheesy dimple die, remove that, and then I'm going to chuck my round shape into the vise here. Now I'm going to planish this because I don't know if you can see or not. There's all kinds of little dents and dimples. I'm going to planish it around this round shape. I don't have a planishing hammer. The idea is just to smooth out all the dents. So I'm going to work this out. Then I'll bring you back. Okay, that turned out pretty good. So now what I'm going to do, by the way, I make all my own tooling. This is just a round ball I found. It's hardened steel. I had a heck of a time welding this screwdriver handle to it. I should have annealed it first and then rehardened it, but oh well. But it works great when you need to smooth out or form round pieces. That's my go-to tool. I also have a couple of homemade dies here. One's round, one's square, that I just chuck into the vise when I'm forming shapes. And then of course my cheesy homemade dimple die. This is all out of scrap material. You guys don't have to go out and spend a lot of money for sheet metal forming tools. You can make your own to get by with. Now what I'm going to do, since this material is stretched and the little flange on here is now wrinkled, I'm going to put it back in the dimple die and just go around and flatten that out. You'll notice when I was laying this out, I didn't lay out the other piece. That's because I want to wait until this is formed, then I can measure it and lay that out to match this. Okay, that's pretty good. Because what's going to happen is when I make the outer portion of the sprinkler head, it's going to have a flange on it that's going to wrap around this one, and I'll seal it tight. I'll show you that as we move along. So I'm going to drill a center hole in here for the brass fitting that's going to screw in here. Well, there's the brass fitting right there. And prepare that for soldering, and then we'll go from there. Careful. So I better clamp the other side too. Right, our little brass plug. Measures 0.813, which is 13/16. So I got my step drill chucked in there. Hopefully my clamping arrangement will work better this time. We'll see what happens. If not, I'll have to come up with something else. What I want to do is drill this hole just undersized so I can screw that fitting on there tight and then solder it in place. Well, I finished it off in the vise with this. Just couldn't come up with a decent clamping solution on my cross slide. Anyway, I think this is going to work. Yeah. So, I'll pull this back apart. I've got to clean all that up, scuff up the galvanized. I got to treat it with muriatic acid and then solder the thing together. But I don't have any silver solder, so I'm going to come back tomorrow and we'll solder this up.